Oh my God, we did it.
We did.
We done
Look
did it.
at our illustrious new surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
We welcome to Uncarcerated, by the way. I'm Lee Scott.
I'm Kevin Scotts.
And we decided to sort of co-op some area here. We have had the graciousness of WGOT here in Gainesville, Gainesville Community Radio, and the Civic Media Center have been kind enough to let us use their space. But GOT was so crowded that when we have guests, it was tough. And our good friend Arnie from Real Fake Brooms is going to come build us a set here at some point. So we were like, we should start angling towards having a little more space. All of these are the books that we have read. So
we wrote each of these books. No, it does feel, it's cooler. It's not quite as hot in here. Showing a lot of leg today. There's a lot of thigh action happening.
Yeah, what's going on down here?
I'll show you.
Crotch cam.
Oh God. No, but it does feel like a little more. It does feel like less like confined. Like there's something a little like warm and kind of like claustrophobic in that room.
Relaxed. This is a relaxed. This is the new and improved relaxed Uncarcerated. And we told you when you joined us way back a couple of months ago that we were going to grow the show. Part of that is going to be the type of guests we get on, and part of it is going to be promotionally. And we'll have T-shirts available, all that good stuff. A website coming, but part of it is the production quality. So at this point, I'm really confident. I listen to a lot of podcasts and we have brought the heat, Kevin. The type of guests we've had on, the depth of the conversations, not only has it been people's personal narratives coming in and out of the criminal justice system, and people in the prison reform world and education world, but it's been emotional and enlightening and funny, and we wanted the quality of the production to match the quality of the content. And so we're gonna, we hope that you, the listener, haven't watched an episode and went, I can't, that's unwatchable, or unlistenable, worse.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's helpful certainly if you can, have like, clear video, clear audio. It definitely helps in terms of like just like appeal and like wanting to like engage with it and all that stuff. And I agree with you. I think it has been cool to have like our guests, and we have so many guests that are like lined up, ready to go, that it's like almost like even like a way to kind of like honor them and like salute them. Like I know oftentimes like in this world, in the world of like incarceration, there's like this like, we've talked about it before a little bit, but the stereotype of like, these are lesser quality people in some way, where we know that to be the opposite, that these are like very high quality people. And so why not have the highest quality things for the highest quality people as a way to like kind of match the caliber of our guests and their experience.
Totally. And I think the show is obviously DIY and a little bit underground and a little bit off the beaten path. And so I think doing it in a place like CMC is perfect. I love our new setup here, but we will continue to grow the show because I do feel like these stories need to be heard. And on that note, please like, rate, subscribe, leave a comment, because when you do that, it's not just boosting our ego, which is nice, but it helps increase kind of circumvent YouTube's algorithm, which is only set to Logan Paul. YouTube, TikTok, it's a young man's game, Kevin. So we've got to work twice as hard, but that is exactly what people who have been incarcerated have to do. They have to work often twice, 3, 4 times as hard. They have to hustle.
They have to hustle. What a great segue, Lee. That was a classic. So one of the things that we've been wanting to talk about, this has come up, there's like quite a few topics related to incarceration that we wanted to kind of unpack from an insider's point of view, people who've kind of been through it, people who've had the lived experience. And one thing that's come up in our own conversation and that people have asked about as well is hustles. How do people get by inside, in Florida in particular? Florida is one of the handful of states that do not pay prisoners for their mandatory labor. Yet things cost money while you're in prison. So
a lot of money.
So how do you do it? So there's quite a bit to unpack here. But basically the big picture topic of today is hustles in prison.
That's right. And we have gotten a lot of feedback from you, the viewer, the listener. And one of the things that we have done is we have alternated on Uncarcerated from people who have lived experience, and we've talked about their journey home, and also people in the world of criminal justice as well. But one of the things that we kind of took for granted and didn't think anybody would really want to dive into was sort of the inside baseball, you know, the glossary, the definitions. And that's some of the feedback we've gotten is like, hey, when you all talk about commissary or like a fight, like where do you guys smoke cigarettes, like that kind of stuff. And so we have a list that we're working down to give you the inside. And I know that many of my friends and loved ones watch this show and they want to know what my experience personally was like. Kevin, if he had friends, also would be they'd be watching. And so this is a chance for you to see sort of like how we got by in there. So the hustle. I think the place to start, we're going to break this down into 3 categories. One is currency in prison, 2, the hustle mentality, and 3, the types of hustles. And obviously this show is super tangential, and we're going to go in a lot of different directions. But I think the place to start is, how do you buy things in prison?
Money.
And
is the short answer.
We call it money in prison. Mm-hmm. We don't say, I'm giving you this item. We say, I'm giving you this dollar amount. It's called money.
You got to buy, you got to pay.
You got to buy, and you better pay.
Mm-hmm. You better fucking pay.
That's right.
Yeah, and I will say, this has come up too, like the economy and currency of prison is so unique. It's so strange.
Right.
It's like almost in defiance of actual value outside of a prison. But like because prison has its own things matter more. So some things that might not matter a lot on the street matter a lot in there, and vice versa. So there's like this different like valuation of things that are very distinct and unique to prison. It's like a fucking like an absurd economy at times.
We're in the upside down.
Absolutely.
And I think like to sort of give you an example for you out there that are interested in cryptocurrency, prison is proof that cryptocurrency will work because you don't need the financial system for things to work. Buying and selling and trading will happen no matter what. So let's start from the top down. The biggest hustle is Aramark and JPay and the commissary companies that provide items to the prisoners. Their store is either called the commissary, the canteen, or the store. So you might hear us use those words interchangeably, but basically they have started the hustle. And that is, we know that you cannot survive on the less than 2,000 calories low protein diets that are provided by the prison system. So we've provided these other things, and it could be anything, and it's pretty limited, but it's everything from ramen noodles to tunas to cookies,
chips,
honey buns, chips,
peanut butter squeeze, cheese squeeze.
Right.
Just random. None of it's very healthy.
Oatmeal cookies.
It's kind of shit.
Cheetos.
It's kind of shit.
Flaming hot Cheetos, which was my nickname in prison, by the way. Yeah. And I'm kidding. So, and then pens, pencils, art supplies, clothing. So shoes, sandals, t-shirts, boxers, socks. Because when you get to prison, they only issue you 1 or 2 pairs of socks, boxers, t-shirt.
Yeah, not enough.
And once that's gone through the laundry one time, it comes back brown.
There's this sort of element of like, we will give you enough to technically survive, but knowing that you will definitely crave more and need more than what we're going to give you, and it creates a demand sort of like just by its own existence. And so like even like hygiene items, for example, here's 1 square of soap and this has to last you X number of days. It's not enough soap for X number of days. And so like, you're going to want to wash your ass. You live in Florida where there's no air conditioning in the prison. You're going to get hot. You're going to get sweaty. You're going to need more toilet paper than they give you. So like they sort of create this like demand. And then you have to go to the store, the canteen, and that could be up to 7 times as expensive as a grocery store on the outside.
Those
So,
are actual statistics, by the way.
that's a real number. And so, like, just to keep hammering it home, you are earning 0 cents per hour. You are earning nothing. You have the ability to earn nothing unless you're at some prison that has like a private industry that pays you cents, literally cents per hour. And that's a rarity. For the most part, most prisoners in Florida earn 0, 0, 0 their entire time inside.
That's not true everywhere. There are some prisons around the country that pay a very minimal amount to people for doing yard work, DOT work squads. In Florida, it is not that way. So I'm just going to give you an example of what happens when you go to prison and you get a job. Okay. If you have, say, under 10 years and your minimum or medium security, meaning you don't have some like awful violent crime, immediately they put you what's called out the gate. And that means that you will report to the front gate every day. Either a corrections officer or like a city or county official will come pick you up in a truck, and they'll take you to do any number of jobs. The biggest one in Florida is Department of Transportation, DOT. They fill multi-million-dollar contracts to have roads paved, roads redone, medians weed-eated, mowed, all filled with free slave labor by people that are incarcerated, and they get $0 for that. And by the way, if you're sitting at home going, well, why would you even do it? Why don't you just sit down and tell them I'm not going to do it? Because you'll go to the box, which if you think Florida prisons are hot, they don't have AC. It's like 100 degrees in there all the time. The walls literally sweat. Go to the box where it's easily 120 and you get all your commissary taken away, no visits, no phone calls. So you have to go work. It's forced slave labor.
And they inspect your asshole.
Every day.
Twice.
Every day.
Twice a day. It's not like if you go to work at McDonald's, how often does your manager check your asshole? 3 times a week?
If that.
No, I mean, so it is. So you have no money. You have a tremendous amount of need.
Yes.
And to say, like, to limit it to say, like, well, it's just want, you don't really need it. It actually is like a need. Like, there's like, you need more nutrition. You need better hygiene.
You get hungry at night.
You need clean, you need clean surroundings.
Although I will say though, did you ever, there's an archetype of like characters you run into in prison. Mm-hmm. There's like, we've talked about it a little bit before. There's like, use the Bible to manipulate you guy. Mm-hmm. There is eat everything on your tray if you're not going to eat it guy. Mm-hmm. There is always has the TV remote guy. Okay. There's these hygiene guy.
Like super clean guy?
It is not even super clean. He just always needs hygiene items.
Yeah.
There's always one guy in the dorm that is like, he'll trade all the food that he hustled up, all the put in time because he needs 50 deodorants. I've looked in guys' lockers before and I'm like, why do you have 50 deodorants? Man, I like to stay clean.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. How would you smell otherwise? So yeah, so there's the need,
right?
The need, there's a cost to achieve those things. You are earning nothing. So there's 2 things that can happen. Either somebody that loves you on the outside sends money to you. And we know from statistics and our own experience, most of the people in prison are already representing impoverished communities, already come from low income families.
Right.
So that money, if it arrives, is coming from a family or people that are already hurting financially for the most part.
It gets significantly taxed before it even gets there. So if you want to put $20 on for someone that you love, it ends up costing you almost $30.
Families spend annually $3 billion a year just on food and phone calls alone.
Right.
That's just food and phone calls
in the United States.
Yes. So like that, which is insane. So, and we're just talking about really at this point, we're not even including the food. We're just talking about like, I mean, not the phone. We're talking about food and commissary.
Right.
So like that money's coming from impoverished families by and large, or the other way is you got to make your own money somehow while you're inside.
Right. And also let's not glance over the fact that a lot of people, depending on how much time you have, people forget about you, they move on, people die, or maybe, you burnt some bridges. So there's a lot of people who are completely alone and they never get any money, on their books. Money on the books, by the way, keep that phrase in mind because we've got some hustles coming up on the show with that phrase. But money on your books means putting money in your inmate account so that you can spend money on phone calls, food, necessities, hygiene products. So Kevin outlined that there is a need, there is a lack of, and you've got to fill it somehow, and that it is 7 times more expensive to get any of these items than it would be on the streets. So not only is your family losing money, they put $20 on for you, and they had to spend $30, but that money that you now have goes 1/7 as far as it would if you were going to the grocery store.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, it's insane. And so now you're suffering, your family is suffering because of like the outpouring of finances, the emotional toll. We don't even need to get into that. So you now have to either bleed your loved ones dry all the time, or for some people, like you're saying, there is no one, they have nothing, or maybe the bridges have been burned. Their inmate account will never get above the number 0. It can certainly go lower, and it will go lower than
Touch
0.
on that for a second, Kevin.
So
how does someone have less than 0 in prison?
Oh, it's so easy, Lee. So if you say you get sick and you need medical attention, you have to fill out a form that says, I would like to please see someone from the medical department. And they go, okay, that will cost you $5. So your 0 has now gone to -5.
Between 5 and 15.
Correct.
If it's like an X-ray or you need medication, then you're looking at,
God help you.
Right. So.
Yeah. So and that will just keep getting lower and lower. So say you've had a few different illnesses and you now have your inmate account reads -25, and your dear grandmother decides to send you $30. They will take 25 of that to bring you back up to 0 and then give you the great mercy of $5.
So let's say you had $5, Kevin.
Yeah.
And you haven't gotten money for like a month,
Mhm.
and you may not get money for another month. How would you, Kevin, spend that $5?
$5. I really had a deep romance and renaissance in prison with Fritos.
Oh,
And so I really,
okay.
for some reason, I went like ape shit on Fritos. And I would get some fucking Fritos. That was a definite like comfort snack for me for some reason. I would like eat them like one at a time and just like really like
Savor it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is for me?
What?
If I only had $5, I'm getting so let's see if I'm gonna do the math in my head, because they were 76 cents a piece. I still remember this. I would get 7 bags, which was the amount you could order. You could only order. Oh, by the way, there's limits on what you can order. I would get butterscotch candies.
Oh, wow.
Man, I love butterscotches.
Oh, interesting.
And it was like something to do, it was like I'd always have one. And then
they last a while.
And they last a while. And then also I would use those candies in case anybody asked me for something. If someone comes up to your bunk and they ask you for something and you don't have it or to give, but like me, I'm a nice guy, so I end up like giving all of my coffee away because people one at a time come up and they ask for a cup of coffee, right? And like your buddies would go, hey man, you gotta learn to say no, right? But it's never saying no to them. They always want you to start with someone else, right?
Yeah.
So
not to me.
So
you say yes to me.
Yeah, no, you say no to them.
You
Fools.
always say yes to me.
And if you said no, Kevin, what would they say to you?
What do you mean? Oh, like
if you said no, I don't have it to give, what would they say?
I mean, opposite. Well, what else you got? Like they or just like fuck
you're
you.
A crab.
Yeah. Like they would.
You're
like,
a crab.
Yeah, you're selfish. Like you wouldn't give a crippled crab a crutch.
Right.
Yeah, shit like
right.
that. Yeah.
So I use the butterscotch candies to parse out stuff. I would go, oh no, I don't have any coffee, but you want a piece of candy? And then I don't seem like an asshole.
Would people take the candy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And they're like, oh well, he gave me something.
Yeah.
Thanks, Grandma.
One time.
Thanks for the butterscotch, Grandma.
when you get to prison, like once a year, they have to show you these prison rape videos. They're called PRIA, and they bring you all into the gym or the library or whatever, like a couple hundred people at a time, and they show you these videos that were made in the 1970s, and the guy is like in prison for the first time, and he walks into his cell, and there's like a candy bar on his bed, and he's like, hey, I don't know who put this in here, but I don't want it, because he knows that it's like trade for sex or whatever. So one time we were watching those PRIA videos, and I made it back to the dorm before everybody, and I put one piece of butterscotch candy on everyone's bed. So when they came in, they all had candy on their bed. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. That's
It's
amazing.
a shock that I wasn't murdered while I was in there. So that's where we're at with, you know, there's a need. It doesn't go very far. And then if you don't get money, you have to come up with what's known as a hustle.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a second,
So
but I want to go over the cost. Though.
Okay. Okay.
Before we get into the mentality of the hustle, let's go over the cost of what these items are.
Okay.
So a bag of coffee, anywhere from $4 to $7 for a bag of coffee.
Yeah, I know it's gone up. So I've been out for 6 years, over 6 years, and I know it's gone up multiple times since then. And I don't even know what it is now. Like, I mean, I know, like, and when we were there, they were like, man, like, it's really gone up.
Right.
Like, it was already rising, and it's risen farther, even higher since we left. So I don't even know what it is now. Yeah, it was like $5-6 for a
Yeah,
bag
it's
of coffee.
$5.99.
And it's like, to say a bag of coffee, by the way, it's like
4 ounces.
yeah, it's like a Ziploc container that's got pre-ground coffee in it. And when I was there, it was Billy. It was like some goat, it had a goat on it. It was called like Billy something, and there's literally a fucking goat on it. I wouldn't call it hoof powder. It was not good. But yeah, it's basically just like a Ziploc bag of coffee. You scoop it out, you put hot water. It's instant coffee.
Yeah,
it's instant shitty coffee, and the price of it is astronomical compared to like what it's actually valued at.
Yeah.
Same with ramen noodles. It's like many times more expensive per package of ramen noodles, like in a
60 cents for a ramen noodle.
What is it in the grocery
on the
store
streets?
now?
It's like 20 cents.
Yeah, okay.
So it's 3 times as much there.
Yep.
A honey bun is $1.25. Jars of peanut butter are like $9. They're $3 at home.
Yeah. I know the same is true. Like we didn't experience this personally, but I know when doing research for Just Income, for example, like when we were like kind of calculating costs and things, looking at the women's prisons as well, their commissary was like astronomical as well. And they have them, you know, like all their hygiene items were like, holy shit.
Wait, they get pink tax in prison too?
It's insane.
Holy
insane.
shit.
Yeah, it's like, so like, I mean, you know, it's, yeah, the food, the hygiene, all of these things are like, you know, they can be up to 7 times the price of what, you know, a citizen who's earning money and free on the street would be charged. Meanwhile, somebody who's captive, unable to generate money, is at the mercy of the entire institution, is going to be gouged, which is just, you know, corruption, it's greed, it's preying on people in their most
It's predatory for sure.
Absolutely.
A pack of tuna is $2. A bag of Cheetos or Flaming Hot Cheetos is usually like $1.29. Fritos, I think, were $1.29.
Something like that. Yeah, that sounds right.
So I'm just giving you the cost of everything so you can kind of get an idea with how ridiculous it is if you want to say make a little snack for yourself at night. A couple of ramen noodles and a bag of Fritos, now you're talking like $2 or $3. You do that 7 nights a week, that's like $30. Bag of coffee is like $6. And then hygiene items, you'd say average, you know, $7 to $10 a week. You're talking $40 to $50 a week to live. I think I had my budget down to like $33 a week. It like for like basic necessities, that's not any extra stuff. And then you get into the bigger items like a radio. If you want a radio, that's usually like $40 to $50. T-shirts, anywhere from $3 to $8 for that. Flannels,
like thermals and
thermals,
shit. Yeah, shoes.
because it gets cold in there.
It sure does. Yeah, so yeah, there's any number of ways to like just fucking rip you off, basically. Yeah, they got you by the balls. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
I mean, like it's either you do it or you suffer.
You starve,
yeah.
and smell.
Yep.
And are never able to write home. So that's sort of like, think of those items as we go through this next part of this conversation. Think of bag of coffee is $6, a tuna is $2, soups. Then you take that currency and it's rounded up just a little bit for the hustlers to be able to do quick math and do trades, whether it's on the poker table or any of the hustles we're about to get into. So, you know, 2 soups are $1, right? Bag of coffee, they'd call it $5. A tuna would be $2. So that way you can take like you have dollar bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, 20s,
yeah.
And you're able to make change. They literally make change. If someone owes you $5, right? And you have 3 bags of coffee, they'll give you 8 soups back. So that's how the currency works. That's how the exchange goes. There's like that exchange rate that goes on for all this stuff.
Yeah, its own economy unique to the prison itself. So
Right.
fucking weird. And so so if you're someone who is getting nothing, you have to get into the mindset of I must generate some money through some means, and we can get into like the different varieties of. But I think it's important that for some people, like it's a thing to do with their time.
It's an obsession.
Like the hustle.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. There was a guy, they called him Lolo, where I was at. He was constantly getting ointments and creams, and he was always selling.
Hygiene guy.
He was selling shit like I got like some like Neosporin antibiotic cream on the Lolo.
Yep.
And he was always he would give you like a great deal on this like cream.
Yeah.
But
that he got for free from
that was his thing. He was a salesman. His hustle was sales.
Yeah.
It was like an obsession. And then
there's always a guy named Lolo.
But
by the way, if you ever run into a guy named Man or Mike, they'll beat your ass. They can fight every time. I don't know what it is. They got hands.
Yeah. Hands is the hustle too. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Hands is his own hustle. But yeah, like there's like the way to do time is to like do the hustle, but then there's also the like just very basic survival. Like I'm hungry, so I will do fill in the blank so I can get some more food, so I can get some cookies, so I can feel like I don't know, like I'm not like the odd man out here as well.
Yeah, everybody's like breaking bread with each other and like hanging out at their bunks. Like making food also becomes an obsession and it becomes a way to pass time. So you get groups of guys that they'll start at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, busting up chips and busting up soups and slicing pickles. And I never did that. It drove me nuts. If I was I either cooked by myself or I cooked with one other buddy. And the guys who got together in groups and it would take 12 hours to make a burrito, like, it drove me nuts. But I got it. You're just trying to waste time, you know?
Yeah, not worth it.
But yeah, there's a mentality to it. There's an obsession to it. There's guys who never, ever use the items that they have accrued ever. And this is where it all starts. When you go into the reception center in Central Florida or Lake Butler, I think there's 4 reception centers in the state of Florida now. That's where they bring you in, they herd you in like cattle, strip you naked, strip you down to nothing, scream and yell at you, take your height, your weight, your temperature rectally. And you get put in your dorm, you get assigned, and this is before you go to your main prison. That's where the hustle starts. And it starts with envelopes. So at this point, nobody has any commissary yet, right? Everyone's just getting in there, but you have your envelopes and your paper and maybe a pen that you've gotten from your county jail. They'll let you bring your personal mail, some pictures, and they'll let you bring your envelopes.
Right, 2 books, maybe like you're allowed
a Bible.
Something, is that what it is?
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Anyway.
Yep. So the hustle starts in the reception center. Nobody has had a chance to go to commissary yet. And for the people who have been there for a few days, maybe they've made one trip to commissary. So it's sparse. These dorms are sparse. There's not a lot of people eating. There's not a lot of people with clothing or food. Everybody's frazzled because they've been naked and yelled at for hours. They're unfamiliar with their surroundings. They've not made any friends yet. So the envelopes become the very first hustle. And I have watched this with my own eyes. It blew my mind. I would watch these guys walk around and accrue these envelopes, dozens and dozens of envelopes, trading off the little soups that they have to get these envelopes, that they would take those envelopes and then trade for more soups and get those soups and get a whole nother set of envelopes. It just went in a giant circle. Nobody ever ate any soups. Nobody ever used any envelopes. I was like, what the fuck's happening here? And then I realized it was the obsession with the hustle.
It's just passing shit around. I'm involved in something. This is like it's like a sport. It's like trading for sport. It's with no value gained or lost. It's like this, like sort of like, you hand it to me, now I'll hand it back to you. Now you hand it to me again. It's just like it's like an activity.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's a hobby or something.
I want to look into the psychology of that. I think part of it, you're right, Kevin, it's something to do and it's a way to pass time. I think it's a little bit predatory, and it's a way to like exert some power and some will. It's a way to show that like you're not just going to sit around and like, you know, wait for something to come to you. You have a go-getter mentality. And I think there's a fair amount of it where a lot of people were hustlers on the streets, and they develop that addiction that they are awake from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. hustling in any number of black market situations, right? And that stops cold when you go to county jail. And then it starts back up. There's a little bit of hustling in county jail. Trays, trading food on trays. And then when you get to prison, it's like fired right back up again. So there's something in your brain that says, I can't sit still. I can't go to sleep. I've got to do something to like I need, you know.
I got to come up.
Right. Got to come up.
I got to come up somehow. Okay. So, well, that's good. That feels like a good establishment of like, here's the money situation. Here's the economy. Here's some of the mindset of like, here's what's going to happen.
Right.
And now I think probably what most people want to hear is like, what are they? What is the hustle? What are the hustles?
Okay.
Okay.
You want to go first?
Sure. So the one that I think of first, actually this came up last week with somebody I was talking to who had done this themselves, is some people for a hustle will actually wash other prisoners' clothes.
Laundry hustle.
So if you say you have your prison issued blues, the outfit that they give you, and you want to like, they become dirty. You live in a dirty environment. You need to wash your clothes. So you can send them to the laundry. And if you put it, you know, into the laundry system, it comes back. And when it comes back, you realize what they have done is they have lit a witch on fire and urinated all over that witch, and then hovered your clothing over that steamy witch piss, and then returned it to you. So that's what happens if you send it.
How does something go through a washer and a dryer and come out 10 times as dirty? I don't even understand it.
It's astounding. It defies physics.
I don't know how you are, but I did not give a shit about how dirty my clothes were. I mean, I dropped something in the toilet the other night and I still used it. So, you know, like, I don't care. I'm gross, but you know, like, I just didn't care. I would watch guys for hours, like pressing their uniform between books and creasing them before they went to visitation.
Oh yeah.
And they would call those uniforms my Vizzos.
My Vizzos.
I've got my Vizzos on.
It's the nice set that I saved just for visitation.
Right.
I think it's in a way to like present like I'm still clean. I'm still like I'm not. I haven't given up. Or it was some way to like elevate what is clearly a deflated life.
Right. I mean,
at that point,
which I get why someone may do that, but I called the guy out one time. I'm like, there is zero chance that your grandma is showing up to visitation and going, wow, it's prison sucks, but God, you look great.
Yeah. Are you sure you're in prison? You look so nice.
I mean,
look at those creases.
Must be treating you well.
So some people, they'll wash clothes. So like, you know, like they'll get bleach. Through whatever means, they'll get like a little bottle of bleach.
Bleach by any means necessary.
Right. Yeah. And they'll get your whites, keeping them whites. They'll wash your blues. So they like, and oftentimes they'll get some other like cleaning products. So they smell a little better. They don't have that witch piss smell. There's any number of like different like I guess like concoctions that people can come up with as the laundry person. But actually, I admit I actually had a laundry guy.
Okay.
For a while.
So I do want to like talk about the mentality behind the laundry guy, because at the camps that I was at, I don't know about where you were at, but the camps where I was at, the laundry was reserved for guys who were getting put down on. And by put down on, that means some bigger, larger possible gang member is forcing you into this hustle, and that's your only way to survive. And those people were called Junjuns. A Junjun is a junior. That means like you're smaller and tinier and you're up under this big guy. And there was actually a group of guys at the one camp I was at that was called the Junjun Mafia. I mean, it was like a bunch of tiny guys running around doing favors for other guys, but they stuck together like they had unionized. The Junjun Mafia. The Junjun, yeah. I'm surprised they didn't call it that. They really missed out. Idiots. Let me go back and tell them.
The guy, I had a guy who would wash my clothes for a while. And he was not a Junjun. Okay. He was a sweet dude. His name was Bill Maher, and he called me Mr. Kevin.
Bill Maher? You were in prison with Bill Maher.
His name was Bill Maher.
Oh,
Bill Maher. not Bill Maher. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Bill Maher. I won't say his last name. He was a super sweet dude. Anyway, he would wash my clothes because he had nothing. His family lived in
Yeah.
Mexico.
Right.
He had nothing and no one at all. He had no resources. So, and that was like the way he was making ends meet. And so he would have like a little extra food, a little extra humanity during his time in prison. So people wash clothes. That's a pretty like vanilla hustle.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, that's like
It's basic.
yeah.
It's pretty basic.
Yep.
The hustle that really comes to the front of my mind was my hustle. And my hustle was I was the ticket man. So in prison, all sorts of gambling goes on, from the poker table to spades to betting which guard is going to be on per shift. I mean, you name it, and people bet in there. But the type of gambling that I was involved in was sports gambling. So I took my extensive, often boring knowledge of trivial matters like sports and statistics, and this old bank robber from Jacksonville named Harold, I won't say his last name, but he talked like Foghorn Leghorn. He'd be like, I say, boy, I'm gonna teach you how to do them tickets.
Oh, Jesus.
And so he taught me how to set the numbers. Basically, I would get on the phone, and I would have somebody give me the Vegas odds before the newspaper even showed up. I'd write down what all the Vegas odds were, and then I would shift them. And you had to have a psychology, like you have to know who people are fans of in your dorm. And because I knew everyone in my dorm intimately, like I'm paying attention to everyone around me all the time. So I use that knowledge to go, well, everyone in here is a Florida State fan, so I'm going to tilt the numbers towards Miami and make them all bet on Florida State.
Yep.
And you put out these little tickets of paper that have a list of all the college games, the next day, all the pro games, and then the odds are set.
World's smallest handwriting.
Tiny handwriting.
Yep.
My ticket was called Game Day. There was two tickets on the compound, and listen, so my very first time running this ticket, right? I had saved a bunch of commissary money, probably like $200 in my bank. And it was just tunas and some soups and coffees. And the way the odds work is if you pick 4 games right, it's 10-1 odds, right? So if you give me a soup and you pick 4 games right, you get 10 soups back. 5 for 15, 6 for 25, 10 for 100. So 10
picks
for one, you got pick 10, it's 100-1 odds. I have never seen anybody make a 10 pick. The way it was explained to me is it's super hard. I don't care how much you know sports. It's super hard to get 4 right. You think you know, but there's always that one game that trips you up. And here's the thing. They got to get 4 right. You only got to get 1 right. So the odds are always in my favor. Yep. Well, my very first time running a ticket, a guy hit me for a 10 pick.
Hell yeah.
$180. And so I took all the money I had and I loaded them up in 2 big commissary bags, and I walked it across the compound, and I made sure everybody saw me. And after that, everybody was like, oh, well, number 1, Scott pays, and number 2, his shit must be sweet. This guy has no idea what he's doing. It's his first time running a ticket.
Hit him over the head.
Yeah. Nobody ever hit me after that. And that's how I ate every week. Like, you know, my family doesn't have a lot of money. And so I didn't really get a lot of money put on my books, but I was able to like do pretty well in there by running tickets. And by the way, I want to add this. It is a very benign hustle. There are some hustles that are by nature very predatory. Gambling itself is an obsession, an addiction, and it can be predatory. But the sports gambling wasn't, because nobody was actually paying thinking that they were going to win all this money, right? There wasn't a manipulation going on. It was like, you don't care about the North Carolina BYU game or the Philadelphia 76ers Golden State game. You don't care about it. But now that you have 1 soup lying on it, you sit there, you're sweating that ticket. You're sitting there watching this game with excitement and thrill. It's like paying to get on a roller coaster. So it's actually a fun hustle to run.
Yeah, that to me, like I think I told you, I was one of the ticket guys,
a writer
in my dorm. So like I wasn't the top of the pyramid for that ticket, but one of my buddies ran it. So I was the guy that like wrote.
And what'd you get? 20 cents on the dollar?
I can't remember, something like I did great, honestly. I mean, because the ticket man always comes out on top ultimately. It's like Vegas, like the casino, the house always wins, basically. But yeah, it becomes like, that wasn't like it didn't feel sinister. It was just like people engaging in something. It was like, yeah, way
People
to like
talk shit.
kill some time.
Yeah.
And like kind of be like, oh, fucking patriots or whatever, like
Right.
just kind of get stoked on stuff.
Right.
I did that, and it was fun. It actually benefited other people around me too, because the money was actually food, which takes up a lot of space. You have a very small amount of space, so I would rent other people's lockers that didn't have anything, and they would actually benefit from it as well, because I would break off some money, cookies, soups for them as well. So it was sort of like a win-win.
It's trickle down economics works, is what Kevin Scott's saying here.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Okay, so
it's a real Adam Smith over here.
One of the other hustles, and this is a less nice one. We kind of hit it a little bit earlier. And not one of the most like well-known ones, but it is a thing of violence. Violence is its own hustle. There are people who are experts at violence, and maybe don't have any resources, don't have enough food, don't have enough hygiene, whatever it may be. And so their hustle is, if you need someone to be harmed, you pay me. It's like a hitman, basically. It's like
That's exactly what it is. It's not basically. They're fucking hitmen.
It's a damager.
And it's usually its name's Man or Mike.
So there was a guy that I played music with who was amazing. Dude was super funny, super talented, just like loved this guy. He was great. We had a great vibe. I would happily hang out with him now. But every now and again, somebody would be like, and be like, I got to go do something. And he would go and he would fucking bust somebody up. He would go tune somebody up.
Yeah.
He was just real good at punching motherfuckers in the head.
Did you have to fight when you were in prison?
No, I was fine, really.
Yeah. I got along with everybody.
Yeah,
I only had to fight one time. That was when I first got to ACI. Some guy kept coming over and sitting on my bunk, and I knew he was trying something. And I very nicely, respectfully told him to get lost. And he was like, get in the bathroom. So
I had like one thing that happened, but it was like silly. It was like, in hindsight, it was like, that was not even really a thing.
Yeah.
It was like not even it wasn't like what you would imagine to be like a prison fight. But there are people who like, they are experts at prison fighting, and like that is another form of hustle. It's sort of like, you got a problem. If you got enough money, if you got enough resources, and you want that problem taken care of, you go talk to fill in the blank, and they'll make that problem go away. And,
right.
and either they'll make it go in the way in the form of like, they'll teach the person a lesson enough that they'll never fuck with you again, or they'll hurt them so bad that they have to leave, or that they got to go check in, and they're going to ask to transfer to a whole other prison. So it's sort of like a problem solving through violence hustle.
Yeah, or that, they're just so intimidated that they don't ever, mess with you again. I mean, right. It doesn't always have to be that they go beat the person up. Sometimes they just go and it's like extremely threatening, like, I'm coming back.
Look, like, yeah, the face, the reputation is enough to be like, oh fuck, like that's okay. We're good. I'm copping deuces. That's it. All good.
So another hustle, and I don't know if you agree with me on this. We have had guests on this show who would totally disagree with me on this, but I felt like the law library was a hustle. I felt like the law library as a hustle was a little predatory. Other people think that it was not predatory, that it was actually quality, and it depends on which jailhouse lawyer that you got. There was some people that were doing super quality work, really cared about you, really cared about your case, and they would get you back, meaning they would send you back to county, and you get a chance to go in front of your judge and plead your case again, give back time, which means that you would get released. I never saw it. What I saw was people taking hours and hours and hours to comb through to find one word that was not the correct word, and then all of a sudden they thought, well, I'm going to get to give all my time back because this says the word in, but it was supposed to say the word out, or whatever it is. And they were got people in there that knew what they were doing, and they had the job that put them in the library, and they would charge you ridiculous amounts of money, and they would sell you hope. They would sell you a dream. And so I saw the law library as a big time hustle.
Like selling false hope for an astronomical price.
Absolutely.
That's painful. Yeah, I think I did see a little bit of that. My experience was not that. My experience was good, in the sense that maybe I was just at a good place at a good time with some good people for the most part. Like the guy
sounds like an Outback commercial.
no rules, just right. No, I saw people that would like be like, hey, I see the merit in your case. Like, you're right. Let me help you. Like, that's what I'm here to do. I want to help you. And I think they were lifers that could not help themselves, and so they felt like almost like a desire, like obligation to help somebody else that they could help. I think it was a way to like sort of rewrite their own story in some cathartic way.
Yeah.
And so there was the I'll do it for free. I also saw the honesty come up. I was like, you don't have a chance. Like, I need to be real with you. I need to like manage your expectations. I did see a little bit of like, if it was like, yeah, there's a little something here. I don't really like this person. So like, if you want to break me off a little something, that would be good. It's a little beyond what I'm supposed to be doing here.
Yeah.
It's a little beyond the job description. There's a little bit of that too. I have heard of people describing exactly what you're saying. People that had come from other camps, it would be like, I fucking put all of my eggs in this one basket with this one law clerk.
The guy lost my paperwork. He didn't do
like
anything. He wrote it wrong. Right.
Yeah,
so.
there were some nightmares like that. But my experience, at least fortunately where I was at, was positive. And actually, one of the guys that I'm thinking of was such a good fucking dude. I really love this guy. So I think my experience was a little different with it, a little bit.
Next up.
Okay. I'm kind of running out of ones to think of, but like the ones that are like, this is a pretty all-encompassing one, and this could be its own episode entirely, is just like selling drugs. Just like, I mean, like the hustle of like tobacco, narcotics.
Wait, people had drugs and tobacco in there?
No. Like, I mean, but basically, like, yeah, we've talked about the gambling. We talked about some of the fighting. The other thing really is just like the getting fucked up part.
Before we get into the drugs and tobacco, because that's a bigger extension to this, I have a good one here that I don't want to glance over. Letters and cards. So like you have right, yeah,
that's true.
You have some of the most incredible artists who have all the time in the world, so they can like really hone their craft in there, and a lot of them turn to making cards. So Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, Easter, anything that it's like motherfucking prison Hallmark in there. Walmart, and they're like so. And they're extremely ornate. Like I watch guys who were like had the pop-up cards. Do you ever see those? Like you would open them up and like things would spring out of it like confetti. I'm like, where'd you even get confetti? It was crazy. Glitter. I mean,
you know what I had never seen art-wise until prison were the clouds, the big bubbly prison clouds.
Yeah,
like they were on everything. It was just like the filler.
Right.
It's in everybody's tattoos. It's in the cards.
Yeah.
It's just these
like, where are you guys seeing all this smoke at? It's crazy. There's smoke everywhere.
Where are these big bubbly clouds?
Right?
Yeah. No, that's a great one. I had totally forgotten about. Like, the artist. Hey, it's a good birthday card for your mom. It's right. Mickey Mouse holding the balloon, whatever the fuck it is. Yeah.
And letter writing. I mean, I did that. So like there was a lot of guys in there that were had low to no literacy, and I would write letters home for their for their family or their girlfriend. I never charged anybody to write letters home to their family, but like there were guys who wanted like really flowery, ornate. Like I'm wondering how some of those relationships went when they got home and they realized that like this guy couldn't say any of this stuff and I was like putting all this. I was like Cyrano de Bergerac. I was
gonna say that's you're living the movie. Wait, no, you're a fucking idiot.
Right.
I thought you were dead.
Sorry, ladies. I tricked you into being some people that you probably shouldn't.
You're all in love with Totally Hot Lee Scott. Right. No, I will say too, like when you mentioned like no charge, I guess I had a little bit of something like that with the music lessons. I guess typically for some people that is their hustle too. There were guys that were given like guitar, keyboard lessons, things like that. I gave people, I'm a drummer. I gave people drum lessons while I was in there, and I didn't charge anybody anything. Like I was always like, I just want to do this. This is just the payment was the experience for me, just to like, I don't know, just to have the connection with people and to like kind of see somebody like get it, like, oh my God, like this person, like to have like that kind of experience connection to something larger. So not everybody there's not always an angle. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
some people are just doing it because they give a shit. But for some people, letter writing could be an example. Music lessons, people could monetize that, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So yeah, let's get into tobacco and drugs.
Let's get into drugs.
Let's get into drugs.
I tried that once.
As we kind of round out the show here, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the big hustle. And this is a chain. It goes from the top all the way down. Corrections officers are involved often, people on the streets, your family. There is a whole system going into getting contraband items into prison. I'm just going to start with tobacco.
Let's throw phones in there too.
Phones as well. Yeah.
This is all.
I mean, have you seen TikTok lately? Everyone's got a phone in prison now.
This is kind of like the whole. Like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, the illicit trade. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I just was going to say the thing that I saw that was most prevalent, and just let's just talk about tobacco and then apply everything we do with tobacco, apply it to heroin, crack, cell phones, and then sort of like expand that out depending on what prison you're at. I was at a couple of places that I never hardly saw drugs at all, but tobacco was at every prison I was at. So so I just thought we could just talk about the way, the craft of getting it in, how to sell it, what the cost was.
Yeah.
So in 2010, Florida state prisons ended tobacco use. And that turned into one of the biggest, if not the biggest, hustles in prison. And it comes with so many problems. It's actually got way worse health problems and risks than if you just let people smoke. You know, so the way it works is the people that are, circle back to the beginning part of the show where I said that there's people on outside work squads. Typically, this is how this goes. Someone leaves something at a job site. Those cigarettes, usually they're like the cheap brown cigarettes. They are packed up. So like 20 packs of cigarettes can fit in like 3 what is called bombs. They're like fist-size bombs. They're wrapped super tight with cellophane, some electrical tape over those. And then bloop,
Where's that going?
in your butthole. It's going in your butthole.
Right in the suitcase.
Yep. Badacco is what I called it. Right in your budussy.
Yeah.
Yep. So
yeah.
that was those little bombs, sometimes big bombs, were stuck in people's buttholes. So you had to have the money person.
I'm so glad I didn't smoke.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
I used to tell guys, I'm like, would you eat a blow pop that was in someone's butthole? Because it's wrapped up, right?
Yeah,
The blow
yeah.
pop is wrapped up. Why would you
It's
not eat a
clean.
blow pop that was in someone's
It's
butthole, but you'll
sparkling
smoke
clean.
a cigarette?
There's no problem there.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So gross.
Slurp it
So
up.
gross.
Enjoy it.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. So
so someone drops off the
Mhm.
tobacco, which means that
right in the gym.
money has to be transferred to a family member. So that's a hustle. The family member gets paid. The family member gets paid to drop it off. Then you pay the mule, the person who breaks down the tobacco, puts it in their butthole, and gets it past the guards into the person who it ends up in their
We'll
hands.
just call them Lee
Right. Yeah,
for
absolutely.
the sake of argument.
I'll put anything up there. I don't care.
No, you tell them.
Did you have any friends that were the mule guy? I actually had a close friend that did that. He told me how the whole thing worked. And I was like,
not that I know people clearly like hid shit in their assholes in there.
he got one stuck in there one time.
I knew a guy.
Hours.
I knew
He
a
could
guy
not get it
that
out.
said like, I hate to even bring this up. There's a guy who had put a phone in his asshole. A phone.
Hello?
A phone. I was like, I don't know what phase 1 of that operation was, but he got it done, which is like fucking astounding. How do you begin? Anyway.
By the way, this is like 5 or 6 years ago. You know how big those phones were, right? We're talking like Nokia flip phones. We're not talking like we're talking big ass phones.
Crazy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Literally big ass phones.
So it's coming from the outside,
Yes.
clearly. And so it could be a prisoner bringing it in their suitcase. It could be a Lee Ali bringing it in from the outside in his butthole, or it could be, and my experience more oftentimes was coming from staff members, from guards, from civilians who were employed at the prison. They would bring it in, and then for like basically a huge markup, you know, like a pack of cigarettes cost on the street.
How much is a carton of cigarettes on the streets
I don't know.
of the cheapo brand?
I don't even know.
I think it was $3.50 a pack for 10 packs.
So
It's about $35 to $50. Those packs, each cigarette is broken down into 4 smaller cigarettes, and those 4 cigarettes cost $1 a piece. So it's $4 for one cigarette.
That's 80.
That's $80 per pack for something that costs $3.50.
Correct.
So you can imagine there's thousands of dollars at risk here.
Yep.
So, you know, fights happen over this, like all sorts of stuff happens. Families are threatened if they decide to stop doing it. It's a whole thing that goes on.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I even saw, this is despicable, smuggled in by a guard, bring it in, deliver it to the prisoner as arranged, leave, come back later, bust that prisoner for the very tobacco that the guard himself had brought in, reclaim it, and then go sell it again to somebody else.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's you know, predatory on a bunch of different levels, and then also like it's damaging the person outside, the person inside. It's just the whole thing, damaging buttholes. The whole thing is fucked up. But that's and that, so like you said earlier, we can take the word tobacco and we can kind of swap that out with phone, cocaine, marijuana, heroin,
Tucci,
crack, synthetic.
The scourge of prison these days.
Horrible.
Really, the scourge of
Even
pretty
outside.
much any institution, including, I'm not going to go any further, but including places I'm familiar with, the scourge is this synthetic marijuana known as Spice, Tucci,
K2,
Katie, K2. And for those of you that don't know, there was a synthetic marijuana created 15, 20 years ago. It got banned. And so everyone from the Chinese to cartels to people locally have basically altered the chemical process so that they could continue to sell it in head shops and stuff. And even that was banned. So now it's just people making it on the streets, and it's basically raid. It's raid sprayed on whatever items. Now in prison, they spray it on legal work. So it's sprayed on legal work. They have stopped mail in a lot of prisons because it was being sprayed on letters. So they started spraying it on legal work because you can't stop legal work from coming in. But it's sprayed on whatever item, and then it's smoked. And the effects of this stuff, the closest thing that I could say the effects are is like inhaling the duster, where people are just catatonic. They can't speak. They turn green. They have seizures, vomit. And then they come out of it and they are agitated, cranky, pissed off. And to get that low, the only way to come back up is to get high again. So it's just a constant
it is like
addiction.
Super obsessive. People get like super hooked on it. And like the consequences are dire. Like physically, people die from it. People like putting themselves at like great risk just to get it. People fighting, stealing. Like it becomes like
you lose years of your gain time.
It's like a totally consuming situation. And so like the hustle for that, for the person who's selling, like there's somebody in prison who's kind of like distributing, like they're the guy who's doing it. Like they make, the potential of earnings is astronomical for them, especially on the inside, making a ton of money.
Astronomical. I get it. I see what you did there.
Thank you.
The butthole.
Yep, because of the butthole. So yeah, that is a major one, and really fast as well. Like because that one is, it's not like writing a ticket where you're like, we're just some guys in the dorm having a good time.
Right.
Like this is like there's people on the outside. There's like sometimes it's connected to other institutions. Like that's the whole
gang activity, all sorts of stuff.
That's a big deal. And it wasn't something that I was involved in when I was inside, but I know people that have been involved in it. It's fucking intense. It's super intense, and there's a lot of people dying behind it outside. People dying behind it while they're in prison. Like it's as dangerous as any other drug world.
I want to end here as we wrap up talking. Let's what you just said there kind of circles back to the mentality portion of this conversation. When you're talking to somebody about the illness, the often deadly consequences involved with this particular hustle, especially with Tucci, which is not benign. Cigarettes is arguable. It's unhealthy, and yes, you can die from it, but it's many years later. But when you're talking about this, and I've had this conversation with people before, and they're like, my family's not sending me any money. I can't provide for my kids. I can't provide for my family. I'm stuck in here. How are you going to sit there when you have a family, when you have support, when you have someone to go home to? How are you going to tell me that I shouldn't be selling this stuff for this guy's going to buy this Tucci anyway. He's going to do it anyway. Why should someone else get that money? How can you sit there in your tower and look down on me for selling this when I can be sending thousands of dollars home to my family? My kids are out there right now, and how can you tell me that like I shouldn't be hustling this? And I taught classes in there. We've tried to have really intense dialogue about this stuff. And the thing that always worried me was, do you want to continue to sell drugs when you go home? The answer is almost always no. When I go home, I'm getting a job. I just want to see my kids. So how are you going to sell drugs while you're in here? And then the day you get out, you're going to stop. Like that back to that mentality, back to that obsession. It just keeps continuing. It's a lateral, you just keep moving. You keep doing it when you come home. So like, what is the argument though? Like, other than like the psychological part of like, hey, if you do it in here, you're probably going to do it out there. How do you tell someone that like they're poisoning people, that like it's not healthy? Like, how do you have that conversation?
I don't know if you can. I mean, I think maybe some people might be a little available for that conversation, maybe, but I think for some people, not the right place, not the right time. I'm just trying to survive. I'm just doing what I'm doing. I got to get by somehow. I got to do my thing, and like, fuck it. I mean, like, there's like there's a pretty serious case of the fuck it's that can come into people's lives while they're in prison. Like, fuck it. I don't give a shit. Like, fuck it. Life is meaningless. Like, this is all about suffering.
I'm in the void.
Yeah. Like what's the fucking difference? Like, like this guy dies, doesn't die. It's all the same to me. Like,
I don't even know the guy.
Yeah. Like there's a coldness that is almost like, for some people, I think, like, feels like necessary to like just sort of like navigate the rocky waters of their life. And so
detachment.
Yeah. Like for some people, like, that's just like primal survival. Like, this is what I know. This is a way for me to do it. I'm going to come up. I don't give a shit what happens to anybody else. Like, this is like, I'm taking care of me. It's all about me. Like, I am all that I am like focused on. Yeah. For some people, I think that's life. That is life. And I think for some people, like you're saying, I know people that have like been in, gotten out, gone back in, and that has been, and like they were able to see the connection of like, I was doing it before I went in. I maintained it when I was in there the entire time. I came out, and of course, I just continued what I had known, and then I suffered the consequences again, and I realized I missed my chance to like interrupt the game, and then kind of like changing it the second time and then getting out of it.
Yeah.
But it's hard to, if the game is what you know, if it's glamorous, if it's all around you, if you're kind of, sitting in those waters at all times, it's hard to like zoom out to maybe like see what's happening. So I think for some people, they just sort of maintain it. And it sucks too, because the prison creates that kind of like how we started. Like, there's like, it creates the need, it creates the void of like, the immense, the starvation, the lack of hygiene, the lack of humanity, the lack of like
the isolation,
the decent, yeah, there's just like no sense of like a thriving life or like, hope. And so like for some people, like, like the environment of the prison itself doesn't create any inspiration to change. In fact, it almost creates like the inspiration to maintain some sort of like whatever it takes to get by in here, whatever it takes to like get me mine.
Yeah, I mean, it lights your soul and your heart on fire, and what ashes are left, and you have no reserves or capacity to build that stuff up again. And then the psychological disillusionment that you have and the detachment you have from the people around you that you didn't know and then you never will see again creates this atmosphere. Then you that's all the gasoline, and then you take the dire need where you're just thinking with the back part of your brain, and that's the match that lights all this stuff on fire. Well, Kevin, there's the hustle.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more. I mean, like, well, I'm sure as we continue these conversations, we'll get back into the world of hustle. It'll come up again. We might think of others that people have used.
We wanted to do this episode sort of as a glossary, so that in further episodes, when you hear us reference this stuff, then we can go back to it.
Yep.
I've noticed in this new camera angle, I talk with my hands. I never, like, if you have known me to do that, look at this.
Yeah,
I can't even say words without doing this thing. What is this? I'm like a fucking air traffic controller.
A hand talker.
All right. Well, make sure you like, rate, and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Uncarcerated. You want to email us your story? Maybe there's a hustle that we left out. Maybe you want to share your own story at uncarceratedpod Gmail. It's at uncarceratedpod at Gmail.
I could not wear shorts.
You could call Kevin. That's 352. Just kidding. We'll be back. We've got a few really special guests coming up. We've had a couple of cancellations over the last couple of weeks, so we just decided to do this because it'll set you up for further episodes. But please, 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 I cannot implore you enough. I know a lot of people are watching this and haven't hit the like or rate or subscribe button down there. It really helps. Leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about the show. It just takes 2 seconds, and that comment helps increase the visibility of the show. And we want to get these stories out to as many people as possible.
Keep hustling.
Yeah.
All right. Later.